This is a 2006 Saturn VUE with a bad wheel bearing, and I'm going to show you a little trick that I figured out a couple years ago when I did the other side. There's not a lot to remove to access this. Obviously, you get the wheel off, jack it up, remove the brake caliper, throw the rotor to the side. Then there's 3 bolts on the back side. You just remove those. There's basically one there, and one over there. And then of course this 34 millimeter axle nut, I just used a breaker bar to get that off, not an impact, but I think there's about 11 or 13 bolts if you count the bolt that holds the brake hose and the ABS sensor wire on. Disconnect the ABS sensor. And now the tricky part is, on other cars I would just take and hammer back there. This thing, after about 4 or 5 minutes of pounding, it would come out. But what they've done here is they've used a steel hub into an aluminum knuckle, and those two metals don't play too well together, especially when you get 17 years of salt and road grime in there. And so it took me several hours over the course of a couple of days to get the other side out, and I tried heating it up with MAP gas. I don't have an acetylene torch, so I couldn't use acetylene. That probably would have gotten it hot enough. I heated the heck out of it and banged on it, couldn't get it out that way. I tried using a cold chisel just right there and pounding. All I did was mess all that up, which is fine because you're throwing it away anyway. And I tried various hub pullers. All that did was seem like it was going to jam the CV axle into the transmission and destroy something. Nothing could release it. I even saw somebody have pretty good success taking a pipe wrench, putting it up there, and then just giving it a good whack with a sledgehammer. And when I tried that, all it did was just bend that lip of that hub over. And I found one more solution that worked pretty well last time. I don't know how well it's going to work this time, but what you have to do is you have to you just have to cut off one of these wheel lugs, because if you tap them out, there's no way to get it out. There's not enough clearance with the hub in there. So you just take a cut off wheel, zip it off. Be careful, don't pick it up, it'll burn your fingers if you're not wearing gloves, which you should be. And then I don't know how well this is going to work this time because I don't have a grade 8 bolt. So if this thing melts down and twists in the stretch strip, I'll probably have to cut this off and then run to the hardware store and get an actual grade 8 bolt. But this was what worked for me last time. Just take a nut back there, and there's 2 spots. If you look at this knuckle, that's a pretty beefy spot at the top of that knuckle that you can press against. Work it out a little bit, and then down on the bottom by the ball joint, there's another really pretty beefy spot right up in there that you can press against and just kind of walk it out. And that actually worked pretty well for me. So hopefully it works well this time, and if not, I guess we get acetylene torch time. All right, thanks for looking. If that helped you, go ahead and like and subscribe. Appreciate your viewership. Stubborn wheel bearing removal part 2 success. So I just wanted to give you an update. I did have to go to the hardware store and get some grade 8 bolts because the weaker bolts I was using wasn't strong enough. It stripped the threads out, but I just packed some washers in there, went through that open lug hole, and then I just pushed against right there, and then it kind of binds up, so then you got to go back down to the bottom and push there, and then walk it out a little bit, then take it out, spin it around, go back up top, and walk it out. But it did work. One little word of advice: make sure you lube those threads up with some sort of liquid wrench or WD-40, because there's a lot of force on those threads, and that extra friction's not going to help. So get that nice and slimy and lubricated, and it should work for you. It's worked for me successfully twice. The hub is out. Like I said, the first one took several hours over the course of a couple of days with heat and cold chisels and tools that you can rent, and nothing worked except for this. So there's your solution.